Hey everyone, it's Michael. This week I have an unusual episode for you. I'll be updating a couple of stories that I've covered pretty recently. First, a pretty major update in the Toyah Cordingley story, and then later in the episode, I'll dish out some new information in the Delphi Murders, expanding upon the brief update I released about a month ago. I know some of you were probably hoping for a full new episode, but that will have to wait another week. You might be able to hear it in my voice, but I'm a little under the weather. However, I plan on having a brand new episode out next weekend, and it'll be a very interesting one, I can promise you that. For now though, here are a couple of updates. First, Toyah Cordingley, and then after the break, the Delphi Murders. Well, it happened. Just a couple of weeks ago, on November 17th, I uploaded an update episode about the Toyah Cordingley story, which I had originally covered a while back. The update concerned a $1 million reward announced by Queensland officials, which they hoped would bring Toyah's alleged killer, Rajvinder Singh, out of the shadows. Well, it happened, just as expected. 38-year-old Rajvinder Singh was arrested just days ago, on November 25th, 2022, in New Delhi, India. Authorities in India had believed him to be hiding out in the area for the past 4 years, primarily in the northern Punjab region, but were finally able to put eyes on him last Friday. Authorities received information that Singh had been living with a religious group in India, and in November received a tip that he was going to be traveling for a doctor's appointment on November 25th. Following his arrest, while speaking to police, Rajvinder Singh reportedly offered up the first details pointing to a motive in the crime, one that is honestly so stupid that it makes you sad that this cowardly individual took out his frustrations on Toyah, ending her life in the process. Apparently, Singh went to Wangedi Beach the day of the murder after fighting with his wife, and happened to be carrying some fruit with him, along with a kitchen knife. There, at the beach, he encountered Toyah walking with her dog. The dog started barking at Singh, and he started arguing with Toyah, resulting in the two of them yelling at each other. Unable to control his emotions, Singh then attacked and murdered Toyah in a frenzy, stabbing her multiple times with the knife that he was carrying. He then buried her body in the sand and tied her dog to a nearby tree, before panicking and running away. As recounted in my original episode and the update episode a couple of weeks back, he abandoned his family, his career, and his life in Australia, disappearing to his native India. Last Friday, at approximately 6 a.m. local time, Rajvinder Singh was taken into custody by Indian police, looking noticeably different than he had 4 years prior. Not only was he thinner, but he was rocking a big unkempt beard and a turban, neither of which he had worn before becoming a fugitive. Singh was transferred from local police custody to India's Tihar prison, the largest prison complex in South Asia, where he will likely remain for some time as he awaits extradition. When announcing the arrest to the public, Queensland Police Commissioner Katarina Carroll told reporters, "It was never a question of if, but when this day would come. I am very confident we have a strong case to put before the courts." Police Minister Mark Ryan said that the arrest of Rajvinder Singh was an exciting and promising development, but also cautioned, "This is very early days in this next step of delivering justice for Toyah. I know people are excited about this development, and I know people are relieved." Despite an extradition order for Rajvinder Singh being filed in 2021 and approved by Indian officials a little over a month ago in October, it's not quite a done deal. At least, not yet. Before Singh can be extradited to Australia, he first has to undergo a rigorous court process in India, a process that coincidentally started a few days before I recorded this, November 30th. As stated by Indian Public Prosecutor Ajay Digpool to reporters from ABC, the allegations against Rajvinder Singh are that he committed an offense of murder in Australia and then absconded. After verifying the record, it was found by Australian authorities he had allegedly run away and took Indian flights. Now the court will hold an inquiry. It's like a summary trial. The court will need to confirm Singh's identity and the charges filed against him, determining whether or not they are political in any way, and only then can they approve extradition. Even then, Singh has the right under Indian law to appeal to a higher authority, meaning that we still might be some ways off from extradition itself. One similar case, involving a hit-and-run offender being extradited from India to Melbourne, has been unfolding slowly over the past decade to give you some kind of hint about an expected timetable. In the same article I quoted from a minute ago, criminal lawyer and former president of Queensland Law Society, Bill Potts, offered up an explanation on why it may take so long for extradition to happen. In India, the system is massively overcrowded and is subject to all sorts of procedural delays and appeals, which may in fact frustrate, I suspect, many of the friends and families of Ms. Cordingley who may expect it will be a quick procedure. It simply won't be. The hearing, at least, of the extradition matter may be subject to all kinds of procedural delays. It's not just as simple as saying, the evidence is obvious, let's extradite him. As I mentioned just a few moments ago, Rajvinder Singh made his first appearance in court on November 30th, appearing emotionless for just a few minutes before being sent back. The judge recessed the matter until December 17th, so we'll just have to wait until then to hear any more word. I likely won't be issuing another update in this case for quite some time, so I would encourage anyone with an interest in this story to try and keep tabs on it on their own. While resolution in this story may be some ways off, it seems like justice may be close at hand, at least in one way or another. Rajvinder Singh is no longer a fugitive from justice, and is now being held in Indian custody, awaiting probable extradition to Australia. Australian officials hope to extradite him with maximum speed, claiming that it's a high priority for the Commonwealth. But this is a lengthy legal process that will likely play out over many months, if not years. For the family and friends of Toyah Cordingley, however, this recent arrest means more than just resolution. For them, it may help provide a bit of closure for this painful chapter of their lives, which for some has been the darkest chapter. They've spent the last 4 years with a dark cloud hanging over them, but now they know that the bastard who killed their loved one is no longer free and clear, able to enjoy the luxuries of life and freedom that Toyah herself has been deprived of since November of 2018. Wayne Trimble, a family friend that has been acting as the family spokesperson for some time, told reporters following this arrest, "This part of the story is closest to the end it's ever been. It's a good feeling, believe me. We've been working a long time for this." While I'm not quite ready to close the book on this story, I think it's safe to say that the story of Toyah Cordingley is nearly resolved. Now, we're going to pause for just a moment to hear a word from today's sponsors. The other update today comes from another story that also had a similar update, that of the Delphi Murders in Indiana. If you recall, in that case, 50-year-old Richard Allen was arrested in the waning days of October, a little over 1 month ago. Despite having lived in the area for some time, and having been present in the area of the crime scene when Abigail Williams and Liberty German were murdered, Allen was not suspected of the crime until just recently. In this update, we'll go over exactly how that happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Since his arrest, though, many details about Richard Allen's involvement in this crime have remained closely guarded by public officials in Carroll County, such as what led police to suspect him in the first place, and what new evidence or leads had spurred on his arrest. Well, this past week, the probable cause affidavit from his arrest was finally released to the public, shining a light on what led to this high-profile arrest more than 5 years after the murders of Libby and Abby. As recounted in my original episode on this case, on February 13th, 2017, 13-year-old Abigail Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German were dropped off by the latter's older sister on County Road 300 North, east of the Hoosier Heartland Highway. There, they were walking along a rural hiking trail just outside of Delphi, Indiana, where they uploaded pictures of themselves on social media for a little bit, before ending rather abruptly that afternoon. They were supposed to be picked up by family members a little while later, but never showed up. In the hours to come, a search effort would fail to locate them. Because of the darkness, the search efforts were called off but resumed again the following morning. The girls' bodies were discovered in an isolated area the following morning, February 14th. The case was heavily publicized by public officials and the media, with a lot of exposure centered around video and audio taken from one of the girls' cell phones. It seemed like, in their final moments, they had the presence of mind to record their killer before being assaulted, and the footage revealed him to be a middle-aged looking man wearing a dark jacket and blue jeans. If you recall, there was even a snippet of audio revealing this individual's voice. Despite that though, the case remained unsolved for over 5 years, with speculation running amok on who had done it. On websites like Reddit and Web Sleuths, multiple suspects were bandied about like trading cards, and anyone with a passing resemblance to the offender was rumored to be Bridge Guy, the nickname given to the guy recorded by Abby and Libby as they walked along the high bridge on February 13th, 2017. The case remained frustratingly unsolved until just last month, October of 2022, when police announced the arrest of 50-year-old Richard Allen, a Delphi native that worked at the local CVS. Unlike all of the other alleged suspects, Allen had never been on the radar of investigators or journalists, despite what seemed to have been some pretty glaring warning signs, almost all of which seem painfully obvious in retrospect. Earlier this week, on Tuesday, November 29th, the probable cause affidavit that resulted in the arrest of Richard Allen was finally unsealed by a Carroll County court. In it, it was revealed that Allen had come forward to police shortly after the murders, volunteering information about himself. He said that he had been on the hiking trail that the two murdered girls had been on at around the same time that they had originally gone missing. He claimed that he had seen some girls about their age on a trail east of the Freedom Bridge, and had even been walking along the Monon High Bridge, the now infamous bridge where the footage of the killer had been recorded by the girls before their death. Shockingly, Allen had also claimed to have been wearing jeans and a dark Carhartt jacket that day, the same outfit that the killer had been recorded wearing in the footage recovered from the girl's cell phone. Yet, for some reason, this information was forgotten about, filed away as irrelevant almost as soon as it had been documented. More on that later. Also released in the probable cause affidavit was physical evidence linking Richard Allen to the crime scene, in the form of a .40 caliber round discovered in between the bodies of the two girls. The round was apparently unfired, but still linked to Allen's pistol, a .40 caliber Sig Sauer model P226, which he had owned since 2001 and was still in his possession at the time of his arrest. The fact that the round was unfired is a little odd, but it's not really that unusual. To me, this indicates that he likely had a round chambered and then cocked the gun for dramatic effect, likely in an effort to scare or intimidate the two girls, or maybe get them to comply with his demands. In doing so, he would have expelled the chambered round as another entered the chamber. It's also possible that the gun may have just jammed, or it may have been a faulty round. Regardless, we know at one point that the round was in Allen's pistol, and it somehow ended up on the ground between two murder victims. Whenever a round, or a bullet in popular vernacular, enters the chamber of a gun, the casing is left with an impression. It's almost like a gun's fingerprint, which links it to the firearm that expelled it. So while a smoking gun might be the literal opposite of an unspent round, I think the metaphor still applies here. Police have never revealed the cause of death in Abby or Libby's case, only describing the crime scene in various terms such as gruesome or sadistic, so it remains unknown whether either of them had been shot. However, in the video that they recorded before their deaths, the same one that captured some footage and audio of the killer, one of the girls can be heard saying the word gun, implying that the offender at least approached them with one. Perhaps Richard Allen, if he is the killer, tried to shoot the two girls, the gun jammed, and then he ended up using a knife to actually kill them. It's a grisly thought, but one that seems realistic. During the search of Allen's home, investigators reportedly seized his gun and multiple knives. It was also revealed in the affidavit that a witness reported seeing a man matching Allen's description leaving the area of the High Bridge just before 4 p.m., roughly 2 hours after the girls had arrived. The man she described was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans, and appeared to have been covered in mud and blood. The woman described him as looking like he had gotten into a fight. During his original police interview, Allen reportedly told police that he had been out there in the area of the High Bridge watching fish for around 2 hours, between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m., time that correlated to when the 2 girls had arrived and subsequently gone missing. The witness reported seeing someone just like him leaving the area of the crime scene, covered in mud and blood, approximately 90 minutes later. What he may have done in that time we can only guess at, as the details of the crime scene remain unknown to the public. However, statements by public officials has left a lot to the imagination. If you recall, in my original episode on the case from 2019, police released statements claiming that they were looking for a vehicle that had been seen parked at a nearby building. A building that had previously been a CPS facility but wasn't in use at the time. Well, the affidavit reveals that a separate witness from the other account told police that she had seen a suspicious vehicle parked obnoxiously close to the old CPS building, which, according to her, appeared as though it was backed in as to conceal the license plate. This vehicle reportedly matched the description of one of 2 vehicles Allen owned at the time of the murders, and at the time of his original police interview, Allen admitted to parking there while he was walking along the trail. So, what the hell happened? When all of this information was laid out for the world to see, it seemed to make it pretty obvious that Richard Allen was a primary suspect, or at least should have been from the very beginning. Per his own volunteered information, he was one of the few people near the crime scene when the murders happened, and was the only male presence along the trail, mind you, and not only happened to look exactly like the offender recorded on the girl's cell phone, but was wearing an outfit identical to the offender. That's not even getting into the physical evidence or witness statements, which make the case against him sound even more damning. To me at least, it seems like Richard Allen should have been suspect number 1 from the beginning. Yet, it seemed like he just came forward to give some information, was briefly interviewed by detectives just once, and then was immediately forgotten about. Whatever happened here was an egregious oversight, in a case with national attention, which ABC News contributor Brad Garrett summed up rather well. In a small town, in a place where there's a small amount of traffic on this abandoned railroad bridge, your suspect pool is fairly small. Despite all of this information, police didn't suspect Richard Allen for over 5 years. Let that sink in. Think about what other crimes he might have been able to commit, what other children he may have thought about hurting, that he just never got around to out of sheer luck, and all because investigators just kind of forgot about him. Some other podcasts are alleging that this is due to an FBI clerical error, but to me that just seems like a cop-out to try and steer suspicion away from the people in charge of this investigation, who seemingly had all of this information available to them back in 2017, but either forgot about it or got tunnel vision on other suspects, or I guess filed this away somewhere, I don't know. The sad thing is that roughly half of all murders go unsolved. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not. Despite all of the advancements in crime-fighting technology that we hear about all the time, the closure rate for homicide cases in America is currently at its lowest in decades. And it's not like this is due to a vast increase in murders. While the homicide rate did tick slightly up during the pandemic, other violent crimes remained pretty static, and it's pretty normalized now. But due to police agencies choosing how to spend their resources, most police agencies have incredibly few homicide investigators, and for that reason, those who do investigate homicides are often overworked, having to pick and choose the cases they spend their time on carefully. Of course, murder is a really hard crime to solve. I'm not downplaying that, especially in cases like this where the killer had basically no connection to the victims beforehand. But in this case, investigators had everything they needed shortly after the murders happened. They had Allen's name and face, his description from multiple witnesses, the footage and audio from the girl's cell phone, the circumstantial evidence, Allen putting himself at the crime scene at the time of the murders, the bullet at the crime scene, but they did nothing with it. Hell, according to the numerous witness statements in the probable cause affidavit, among the people that were in the area of the crime scene, Richard Allen was the only known male figure. Yet, police never caught on to the fact that he might have been their killer. In the affidavit, it was revealed that investigators started recently looking at their old tips and picked up Richard Allen where they had left him more than 5 years prior. When they did more than a cursory investigation into him, they finally discovered that all of the pieces fit, but this was after 5 years. In that time, they had dedicated entire press conferences to different leads that they were working on at the time, when they had this guy in their original notes just waiting to be discovered. It's honestly baffling. I get that solving homicides is hard work. I've never done it, but I have spoken to many of those who do. It's a hard job, and I'm not critiquing the effort that investigators put into their profession, but at the same time, we expect them to put in that work and get results. It's kinda literally what keeps society from falling apart. If we don't have faith in our institutions, then what do we have? Sadly, events like this make me lose just a tiny bit of faith in those institutions. Sure, yeah, at the end of the day, I guess they got their guy, but he had more than 5 years to enjoy the freedoms that Abby and Libby were deprived of, continuing to live in the same town as their family members and friends with no one the wiser. If Richard Allen had the presence of mind, he could have used those 5 years to get rid of evidence and or disappear, making this case truly unsolvable. Yet it's by a stroke of absolute luck that he seems to be every bit as dumb as he is evil. I'm sorry for ranting, but everything about this update just pisses me off. The answers were right in front of us the entire time, but the people we trust to figure it out failed at their jobs for more than half a decade. Their families suffered, and a killer seemingly just slipped through the cracks and didn't even have to hide. He just lived out his life in plain sight for 5 years. Despite the case against Richard Allen seeming to pick up some serious steam, and him being the only person charged or alleged to have committed the crime, Carroll County Prosecutor Nick McClelland recently said in court that he had good reason to believe that Richard Allen is not the only actor in this heinous crime. Maybe this is something vaguely threatening meant to indicate that certain people likely knew about Allen's involvement and said nothing. But maybe it's more than that. For months, suspicion swirled around a man named Keegan Kline, who was accused of chatting with the two victims through social media before their deaths, using a fake online persona he had adopted called Anthony_Shots. Investigators dedicated an untold amount of resources looking into Kline, and he was ultimately charged with possession of child pornography. But there has been a lot of online speculation about possible acquaintances of Keegan Kline that were also involved in sharing his social media account to talk to or groom underage girls. Maybe there's a connection there. After all, we still don't know what brought Richard Allen to the High Bridge that afternoon. If he had been waiting to attack the two girls, or if he was just an opportunistic killer that saw an opportunity. This is something I guess we'll just have to wait and learn in the future as his trial approaches. The next court date for Richard Allen is scheduled for January 13th, 2023. Like the Toyah Cordingley story, this is one that I'll be keeping a careful eye on moving forward, but I likely won't be updating regularly. Cases like this are often plodding and move at a glacial pace. So if you have an interest in keeping tabs on the minute details, I encourage you to do just that. However, I will try and release more updates in this case should any major revelations break or anything like that. For now though, I hope you all take care, stay safe, and I will talk to you next week.